welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you're joining me. My name is Beth from Inky Hearts by Beth Cluth. And today we are going to be doing some fun hearts using stencils and alcohol ink. So I'm tilting it so there's no glare. But look at that. Look at the colors. This is using a stencil that I got on Amazon, and I'll put the link in the comments if you're interested. But you could just go online and just Google heart stencil, or maybe you have some stencils at home you just want to play around with. And then this is another one I did. I did it off the edge, and then I cleaned up the edge. I'm working on Graphics Durabright, which is nice because you can just clean off any ink. Like I could do that with this one too. I could clean off the ink from the edge. Or what I think I might do with this one is outline the outline of this in black and then paint the background black. So just this pops right off the page. So let's get started. Okay, so I am starting with this stencil that I got on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comments, but you could just go on anywhere and just Google heart stencil. I just thought this was very fun with this little flourish. I don't even know exactly what size it is. I'm gonna guess it's about 7 by 7, 8 by 8. But what I'm gonna do, besides the stencil, I just have a selection of alcohol inks. Doesn't matter even what colors. I'm going to do a couple different ones, and they might be different color combinations. So what I'm going to first do is I'm just going to cut a piece of, I think this is Graphics Durabright white, but I'm just going to cut it approximately the same size as the stencil. Doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to do a couple, like I said, I'm going to do a couple different ones and sort of see what happens. So the one thing I really like about using alcohol inks with stencils is the sort of the patterns you get. I like to keep it still really organic. I'm not trying to color each specific opening with a specific color. You could certainly do that with a paintbrush, but I just like to drip within the openings and then sort of see the magic happen. Now, it is going to go underneath. It's going to go underneath the stencil on the inside, and it's going to also go underneath the stencil towards the outside. So that's one reason I cut it about the same size, because if I did it on a bigger piece of paper, let me get one. If I do it on a big piece of paper, when the ink goes under, it's going to stop at that line anyway. So that's why I sort of cut it the same size as the stencil. And you also want to just be careful not to drip like reds and greens right next to each other, because it will get muddy. So those complementary colors, red and green, purple and yellow, orange and blue, they can be in the same, they can be in the heart. They just don't want to, you just don't want them right next to each other while they're wet, because they are going to morph into a big puddle of mud. All right, so because it is Valentine's, you know, I love wild plum, so I'm going to just do a little bit of wild plum. I'm trying to get this as level as I can. I don't know if you guys have a level on your phone. It's a really handy thing to have. I just have like this bubble level, so if I put this down, oh yeah, my table is very, now I do have this puppy pad folded. I'm not quite sure why I did that, but yeah, I'm going to see if I can unfold it. just no reasons to have any little extra bumps. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like drip this. I'm not using any blending solution first. I'm just going to drip some of that. It goes right to underneath the stencil. And you can see where, well, you can see obviously where it is going. All right, so I'm going to have that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of, I'm going to save the yellow for the end because that's a nice color that can just blend pretty much with anything. I'm going to put a little just eggplant on here. And it really isn't spreading at all, so I might just help it out a little bit. So within the openings, I'm just helping this out a tad because those dots aren't really spreading on their own. Ooh. Ooh. All right. And I might even try some of this brighter purple. Let me put that in there. I'm just going to spread that a little bit around too. Maybe on my next one I'm going to try to put a little layer of blending solution on the paper first and see if that helps with some of the to get some of these ink colors to spread. You can also just put a little bit of blending solution right on the paper or within the openings. Just put a little bit of drips. I put a little bit somewhere I haven't put any ink yet. All right, so let's keep going with these colors. I'm going to do a little bit of this sailboat. And just a little bit of brushwork here. Just, I don't want to get it too soaking wet. Like what's happening here. Yes. And there's light areas, there's dark areas. All right. I'm going to put a little bit of this wild plum in a palette. And I'm going to try applying it with a brush. Again, I really want the organic look. I don't want it to look like I painted in these sections. So I have to be a little bit careful about how much actual like painting I want to do. I don't necessarily, I'm just using the brush to spread the ink around. If you've ever taken my workshops, you know usually my brushwork is not painting. It's just the brush just happens to be a tool to get the ink from here to here. Yeah, you can see it got really dark underneath. That ink just goes under. It's absolutely fine. We're gonna squish it around a little bit. All right. Need a little bit more color up here. It's fun to really get those the organic kind of blending going on. And again, the blue and the pink make purple, and I'm using purple. So this one does have sort of a color palette to it. All right, and then I would just like to add in a little bit of a pop of maybe an unexpected color. So I'm going to see, I have a little bit of turquoise here. I might just pop that in there in some of these little holes. Yeah, that's really pretty. Pretty. Now when it blends with the other blues, I sort of lose the bright turquoise look of it. All right, so now I want to add, I said I was going to add a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to try to keep the yellow to areas where the pink is, rather than, or where the blue, where the pink or the blue is, because that will, ooh, look at that. That just comes to life. Those colors, you know, work well. Yellow and pink make orange. Yellow and blue make green. I'm trying to keep it away from the purple because yellow and purple can make a little bit of mud. So I have a couple little, well, I'm going to have to do a little bit of yellow in the center here. And then I could leave these little white specks, but I just find I like the look when it's pretty much filled in. I mean, if there are some where there's a little white left in those openings, that is definitely fine, but I don't want too many of them because then it does become sort of a focal, your eye jumps to all of them. So, all right, look at that. Now, that's not exactly how it's going to look when we take the stencil off. Now, you can't just pull the stencil off because it's sopping wet. Not only the ink is puddling within the openings, but underneath that plastic stencil, it is sopping wet. And the stuff really underneath here isn't going to dry that well because there's no air to let the alcohol evaporate. So what I'm going to do, it's probably even best to just leave it, walk away for even an hour. I know it's hard to do when you're in the middle of creating, but you could work on something else and then come back to it. I am going to do a little bit of blow drying and see if I can get these openings at least dry. Okay, so now everything that is in the openings is pretty well dry, but this underneath, you can just, if you push on it, you can just see it move. That's still really liquidy. So, and I didn't glue this down. I didn't use adhesive of any kind to keep it down. Literally, when you put the stencil on the paper and you start to put the ink in the openings, the tension just keeps the stencil on there. There's no need to glue it down with anything. In fact, you wouldn't want to. I'm gonna try lifting up the corners a little bit to see if I can get some of that a little bit more dry. Okay, I got some of this a little drier. There's still a little liquid in there. It's still very wet up here. As you lift it up, some of that liquid starts to push towards your stencil. That's okay. So now what I want to do is I want to have just a little bit more, like, well, I don't know. I was going to sprinkle some more ink on top. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I think with this first one, we'll just sort of see how this has turned out. So even it's still a little liquidy under here, not very much, but what I'm going to do is quickly, I'm going to have that blow dryer ready. And then I'm going to quickly take off the stencil and quickly get to any of the wet spots before they can sort of spread into my design. Otherwise, I could just, again, leave this for another half hour and even more would be dry. I have no patience. Okay, so I'm going to lift up and then I'm going to dry. Wow, look at that. How fun is that? Now, this sort of distracts my eye. Maybe I shouldn't have lifted it up and dried like I did. I maybe should have just left it. But I know one way that I can sort of make this stand out would be to take a Posca pen, and I could just outline, not right up to the stencil, but just outside of the stencil, and paint the rest black, so just the stencil part shows up. Or I can cut this out and then glue it onto another piece of paper, either black or white or even silver or something. Put it in like a little shadow box. I could also cut it out and use part of it on a card. So many different things, but look at that. Look at what you get with the inks in a stencil. Even just not trying, it's just amazing. I just love, 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 love it. Okay, so that's one. I'm going to go clean my stencil, and I'm just going to use a little bit of the spray, or you could use a paper towel. Just be careful when you're using any stencils that are delicate like this. I'm going to spray it and dab or wipe, and if a little bit of ink stays on, that's fine for the next one, but I'm going to clean that, and then I will be right back. Alrighty, so now and you have to clean it really on both sides because it went underneath, but also you applied it on top, so you have to just sort of clean on both sides. Now, I did not get everything off. You can still see a pinkish tint, and it can get stained, and that's fine. And I find that, you know what, even, leave some of the ink on from before, and who knows what's going to happen, right? So this time I cut a piece of paper smaller, and I'm going to hang it off the edge. I'm going to tilt it. I'm keeping in mind these areas here because unless I cut it down more, the ink should stop like right there, and I'm going to have the white areas, and that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to put it like that. I think this time I'm going to do a quick layer of blending solution on this paper. I'm just going to see if that helps the inks to spread a little bit more quickly. So put that back on like that. All right. All right. I am going to I'm going to do more of like a really messy kind of dripping. They do seem to be spreading a little bit better. I'm going to do a little red. Gotta have some red for Valentine's Day, right? And red and yellow play really nicely together. So this is what I call my salt and pepper shaker application method. Just sort of like tap it on. And I really didn't wait too long in between those colors. So they are gonna sort of like blend into each other a little bit. I'm gonna go back to my brush. Ooh, that's a pretty color combination. Oh, and I had a little bit of alcohol left on my brush from cleaning it. So every time I touch something, it lightens up. Sort of organically blends. That's nice. It's a nice little surprise to have happen. Make sure all my little white spaces are filled. I love how the ink pools sometimes around, either it pools around the edge or it pools in the center of those open cutouts. It's just so pretty. So pretty. Okay, so I have another red. No, that's still watermelon. Let's see if I have another. I want another shade of red. Vineyard berry. Ooh, that's a deep one. Ooh. We'll just put a little bit of that here and there. That's pretty. Got some dark spots, right? Darks and lights. Ooh, I was a little messy with my yellow over there. You can see where the ink went underneath the stencil, but it sort of stops where the edge of the paper is. Now I can, if I want, to clean that up. Put a little bit of blending on here. I'm just going to go along the edge again because this is that graphics Durabrite paper. You can, ooh, whoopsies. You can clean up those. You can clean up the edges right back to white, which is nice. You can even, and you can do that after the fact too, like after this is dried. Alrighty. How fun. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of blow drying very lightly. Again, don't do it hot. Plastic paper, plastic stencil, you don't want to melt them, so. What's nice about this stencil is the stencil part that's on the center. Those areas are very thin. The openings are big, and the stencil is not too wide. If you have a stencil that is very much openings, but there's a lot of stencil in between, like very wide areas, those again, just like the edges, are going to stay wet, and you just have to be very quick when you take that stencil off to quickly get your blow dryer on it so it doesn't spread out and sort of distort or change your design. All right, I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to, what am I going to do on this one? Maybe I will try, because I do have this, I happen to have this spray container of isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to do a little squirt of that. Ooh, Ooh. I don't know if you can see that, but I can't really pick it up. But it did make some speckles on there. That's pretty. That is pretty, pretty. What else can I do? You know, I just have to keep, again, I gotta do stuff, right? I lost a lot of my yellow, so I think maybe I'll just do a couple little salt and pepper shaker shakes. Ooh, you can sort of see that yellow pop in there and blend out. Oh, this is gonna be a fun one. This is gonna be a fun one. Let's see. It's not too wet around the outside here. All right, one more little blow dry, and then I think we're done. Okay, I'm not going to pick up the edges to do anything. I am going to rip the stencil off like a band-aid and quickly blow dry around the outside to sort of set the color that's underneath the stencil. Oh, that's pretty. Yeah, if you get this, I mean, I'm not going to worry about this too much. I could, again, because it is this great paper, I'm going to use a little blending solution. I can actually wipe all of this away. Well, I'll need some fresh paper towel, but you get my meaning, you get the gist. I can pretty much wipe this all away because I'm working on the graphics. If you aren't, again, what you can do is you can cut out just around the design. You could outline in black and then paint this all black. There's so many different ways that you could finish these off. I'm gonna see how clean I can get this. It's not going to be pristine, but it's going to be well enough to and if you have a little bit in the background, I don't know, that's pretty too. That is pretty too. Ooh. Oh. Now I am just wiping the same red all over the place. Here we go. Just have to get to a clean piece of paper towel and some additional, I'm using blending solution. I just find blending solution cleans a little bit better than alcohol. Look at that. That is so cool. So you can see all the different little speckles in there, the different colors. Looks very red and orange on the screen. It's a little bit more, it has a little more red and pink in it in real life. But how fun is that? So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with these yet. I'll see if I'm going to clean this one up, or actually I might end up painting it. I think I might paint it. Just because it formed these very beautiful dark lines around the openings just by itself. And so I think taking advantage of that, I think that could look really pretty. And again, you could frame these. It's a little bit big for a card, but you could cut out a big part of it. You could do a big card. you know, if you're making your own cards, you can make them any size you like. Isn't that right? So I hope you have fun. Again, this is one of the reasons I love stencils and alcohol ink. And no matter what the shape of your stencil, I just want you to have a lot of fun with it. And don't get frustrated if things start to combine and whatever. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. You know what? Then move on to the next one. And just learn from the amount of ink you put into the openings versus letting areas dry before you add more ink. Just play with it because you're going to get different effects every single time. All right. Well, thank you and have a very happy Valentine's Day.